First bun, then patty, followed by ketchup, mustard, pickles, extra onions, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, and bun. In that order. One crying Johnny! Oop!
Whatever.
Okay, we've all heard the jokes about Midoriya becoming a McDonald's worker after fighting the greatest threat in the world and the like, and how the ending seemingly concludes everything and nothing at the same time. Many people see this as a bad ending, while others believe that it's good, in some ways at the very least. In this video, we'll break down the effects of the final war on our favorite characters, the world of My Hero Academia as a whole, and its impact on shonen as well. For this, we have to go back to chapter 429 of the manga, where we hear the story of a boy who was locked up in a basement by his parents for being a freak. As if this wasn't bad enough, the parents sewed the child's mouth shut to prevent him from yelling for help. This poor child spent years with his mouth sewn shut, crying and begging for help. While you would expect some hero to come and save him now, none of that happened. During the final war, his family ran away, abandoning him. The house he was locked in was destroyed, which finally allowed him to step out. Having spent years in solitary confinement, the boy could barely handle walking in the sun. As he peeks from an alleyway, he sees people smiling and laughing. This was shocking to the boy, as he can only remember being scared and all alone his entire life, while people were living so happily even though they were just a walk away from him. This triggered the deep resentment that had been brewing inside his soul, questioning society and his family's actions. As he dwelled more on the topic, he realized that he was truly alone because nobody else ever suffered like him. This activated his quirk as his fingers started to turn into some sort of black liquid. Clearly, the boy would let his quirk go on a rampage and hurt anything he could. Fortunately, before any of this could happen, a sweet-looking grandma called out to him. We've seen this grandma before. This woman saw the boy suffering, instantly held his hand, and told him about Deku's message of helping people in need. This made no sense to the boy, but when she said that Granny was here to help, the boy couldn't help but cry his eyes out. While this seems like a sad opera story, it really shows the levels at which Deku has managed to influence society. In the same chapter, it's shown that this granny previously refused to help Tomura Shigaraki because he looked like a freak. She wasn't a sweet grandma, she was that one old lady who would stare you down from her balcony and intensely judge you for acting even remotely out of the ordinary, like laughing loudly. She did the same to Tomura, and he turned out to be the greatest threat to human society. Now, after all the fighting between the villains and heroes was televised, people have seen the error in their ways, and a cycle has been broken. If people like this granny were to refuse to learn, we could have very well seen a sequel of the series. The effect of not being able to save people was evident in the Good Samaritans. But the ones that were affected the most severely were definitely the heroes. This was especially true in the case of heroes like Ochako Uraraka, whose sole goal was to make people smile by saving them. In chapter 429 itself, we see Uraraka on top of a hill crying her eyes out as she questions her work as a hero. Uraraka is suffering from survivor's guilt as Toga died in their battle. Furthermore, the fact that Toga sacrificed herself for Uraraka makes things infinitely worse for the hero. Just as she's about to crumble, Midoriya finds her, realizing that she might come to the spot, which they shared a long while ago. While Uraraka doesn't want to be seen like this, Izuku takes it upon himself to share some of her pain. He thanks Uraraka for being a helpful soul, who stood with him from the time he nearly tripped before the UA exam to sharing her points, finding good in his nickname, and numerous other times. Midoriya believes that Uraraka always puts others first, and she's finally reached her limit. Izuku finally says, "You're my hero," reassuring Uravati at her lowest point in life. However, even Deku realizes that saying this isn't enough to heal the wound. It simply allows Ochako to finally cry her eyes out and let go of things. It's clear that Toga wasn't inherently a bad person. She was just different. Logic doesn't matter here, as Uraraka is still putting the blame on herself, wishing that she and Toga had met when they were kids. Midoriya actually feels the same, as he sheds a tear while thinking about Tenko, or Tomura, but he understands that the path of a hero will never be easy. After all, the best they can do is go all out and patiently wait for the day when it reaches out to someone and somebody and makes a difference. This difference was evident in the encounter between the locked up kid and the granny, who just prevented another Tomura or Toga from being created. Furthermore, the ripples of their actions have also reached heroes and other organizations, as we see All Might talking to Hawks about changing the way heroes are seen and appreciated. If the right steps are taken, the number of people who become heroes for popularity and money will decrease drastically. This will also end things like quirk pageants, where parents pressure their kids into manifesting a quirk, make it look nice, and force children to compete against each other. There are many heroes like Mountain Lady who use their physical appeal to turn heads and gain popularity, instead of focusing all their time on saving lives. While this is the underbelly of the popularity poll, there was also a superficial level of pressure on the top heroes to be present at any given location to protect people. If the popularity poll was removed, the incentive to be a hero dies out. So, to circumvent this, they plan to create a popularity poll that finds a balance, allowing heroes to find a way to increase the number of people who want to become heroes while creating a work-life balance for them as well. Coming back to the Izuku and Uraraka scene, the other students of Class A show up as well, showing their support to Uraraka and Izuku, where we see one of the biggest implications during the finale. Midoriya's ember looks as small as the flame on Charmander's tail now, but somehow, he's not bothered. In fact, Deku's smiling. In fact, he says that he has completed One for All. As we enter the final chapter of the manga, it's revealed that 8 years have passed since the incident of the final war, and that the small ember of One for All died long ago. This is where the joke about Deku working a normal 9-to-5 came from, because he's literally a quirkless teacher now. In fact, he still lives with his mom, implying that he and Ochako never actually got together. While this sounds insane, and it frankly is, there's a very valid reason behind Horikoshi's decision. We all know how wild and feral this fandom can get over their ships, and hence, to prevent any death threats towards him or his family, I believe that Horikoshi didn't create any official relationships in the epilogue. Anyway, before we get into anything else, let's take a look at the current hero world. Deku is a teacher whose class consists of characters like Kota and the kid that was saved by the granny. Hatsume has her design agency now, while Shoji is at the forefront of diversity activism as he raises awareness about discrimination. Due to his and others' efforts, quirk-based discrimination has been eradicated from the cities, but still remains to be a concern in rural areas. He's been helped the most by the team of Uraraka, Tenya, Tsuyu, and Momo, as they tour the entire nation going from one elementary school to another in order to provide quirk counseling and make mental health an important topic of discussion. It's because of such efforts that the number of villain emergence has decreased so dramatically that kids aren't inclined to become heroes to make an impact anymore, and they're instead focusing on healthcare, tech, and such fields. The popularity polls have seen a major change to them as well, with characters like Red Riot receiving a full life documentary. But of course, Bakugo and Todoroki are fighting for the top spot at the popularity polls. We're also introduced to a new character, named Dai, who has a weak quirk and is told by his classmates that he's not cut out to become a hero. Fortunately, he runs across Midoriya near All Might's statue, who provides words of encouragement to Dai, renewing the cycle that began with him and All Might. Towards the end of the chapter, Midoriya is given a new suit with all the details of All Might's fight against All For One, and that the suit was funded by his classmates, led by Bakugo. The series seems to end on a high note as Midoriya joins everybody as a sort of Batman/Iron Man, and everybody's happy, right? Wrong. I'm not happy about this ending, and so aren't thousands of people around the world. Firstly, the epilogue doesn't spare a sentence for the quirk singularity theory, which was possibly the most interesting thing about My Hero Academia's power system. Recap: according to the theory, there will come a generation whose quirks would have evolved so far ahead and so quickly that it'll be nearly impossible to control them. The series went as far as showing Shigaraki creating 100 fingers from his left hand. No matter what you say, this is clear proof that as time progressed, quirks would rapidly develop to go beyond the base level of requirement, and this would increase the competition even further and keep raising the average quirk's abilities. And My Hero Academia didn't acknowledge the theory at all. Sure, you might say that the theory didn't come to fruition in any way because the need for heroes died down. The manga could have clarified this at the very least, especially since it was given such a special treatment throughout the series. I also hated the montage of moments like the graduation and people working for the better because it leaves the impact of those moments up to the reader's investment in the series and its characters. Instead, I believe the epilogue could have been longer and explained things by dedicating half a chapter to the characters as they did to that locked up kid, who made me emotional even though he didn't exist until the final 2 chapters of the series. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part of the ending. how it ended Deku's character arc. The first chapter begins with Deku saying that this is the story of how he became the greatest hero, and the final chapter states that his dreams came true, and ends with him saying that he and his school buddies will always be there to save people? Huh. When did my story become our story? What is this commie propaganda ass move? What is this? Before someone even tries to defend that, Midoriya never even accomplished what he claimed in the first chapter in the first place. Deku became the greatest hero in history for one moment, and that is it. That doesn't qualify as becoming the greatest hero, as his dream was much more than the title. It was clear that Midoriya wanted to save people just like All Might did, and tell them that they don't need to worry because he's there to protect them. And what did this guy do for 8 years? Flip pages. The whole chapter constantly contradicts Deku's personality, showing him to have accepted his fate and is content with whatever impact he can make and live vicariously through his classmates, as he tells himself that he's happy for them. Furthermore, the series was in such a rush to end itself that it didn't even take a full moment to try to justify Midoriya becoming a teacher and a role model. It just put it out there for you to see a bit and accept it because that's the best you'll get and you can do nothing about it. Plus, we all know how stubborn Deku is. He would have absolutely done everything in his power to still be a hero. Furthermore, we've seen throughout the series that there are heroes who mainly rely on their strength. And even before fully inheriting One For All, Deku was strong enough to clear that beach and even push cars. Throughout his journey, he put his body on the line for the smallest things. What could possibly stop him from attaining his true physical peak and using a weapon, something like a modified baton or whip, to still be a hero? Furthermore, it took his friends 8 years to fully fund the suit. While you can say that the research took a considerable amount of time, it's apparent that the suit needed money to be funneled in constantly. Did the heroes not pitch the idea to the government that, oh, this guy saved all of our butts, let's at least thank him by creating a suit that'll help him be a hero and also track data which will allow us to create even better tech? Hell, they could have done a fundraiser to the public and everybody would have chimed in. Instead, Deku waits 8 years to become a hero again, and he's nowhere close to his peak. Even if he never became the true #1 hero, it would have been fine if the manga had not explicitly lied about Deku becoming the #1 hero at the end. You can say that, oh, you thought it would be in the cliche way. But the whole manga developed that way. Throughout its 10-year journey, My Hero Academia barely tried to break the mold and take risks. And you are telling me that the manga is suddenly supposed to be realistic and grounded? Make it make sense. Deku should have died the day he tried to save Bakugo then, or 1,000 times over already. The ending tries to find a middle ground and tries to please everybody, and in that process, it's worse than nearly all possible endings. If you try to please everybody, you are pleasing nobody. As a fan of My Hero Academia, it is utterly distasteful that the manga essentially backs out on everything it clearly promised and doesn't even try to justify its actions. And despite all of the pros I have given, I do think the cons outweigh it. And that is why I think My Hero Academia's ending is bad. Overall, if My Hero Academia had a good ending, it could have been solidified as a must-watch shonen series or must-read shonen series. But now, it's left fans confused and unsure. Let me know what you think. What do you think could have been a better ending? Do you agree with my points? Comment down below and let us know what you think of the ending and if you agree or disagree with us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.